All right, it's another Saturday, and we are here once again with the Gracious Hope Live podcast. My name is Pastor Alexander Ray, your host, and I'm here with, as always, the intrepid Reverend Suarez Dede. And today we will be analyzing the USA Ambassador to Liberia, Ambassador Michael A. McCarthy's statement regarding his recent visit or trip in Leeward counties. And he came back with a report, a statement that is so damning. When I mean damning, it is so bad and damaging and embarrassing for the current administration. And we thought that it would be necessary to bring it to your attention as part of this podcast to make you be aware of what is going on in the lives of ordinary citizens in our country. Then citizens who live in Leeward counties are also part and parcel of our country. And therefore, if we hear any kind of a damage report regarding the basic life necessities that they have been deprived of, we talk about it here because we are obligated in a sense to look after one another. And that is a command that Jesus Christ left for all believers, those who put their trust in him to care for one another. And we say it with the background that we have a political system that is predominantly Christian believers, all Christians, or those who believe in Christ, those who profess, including the president of our country and even past presidents, they all profess to be followers of Christ. And therefore, if they are engulfed with crisis when it comes to humanitarian issues, yes, we bring it up and we talk about it, and we tend to search for the truth and to see how we can see the pros and cons to bring about development and progress in our country. And so, if you're just joining us, we'd like to say welcome to our podcast. And this program intends to preserve and promote the Liberian Christian heritage. We value the foundation of our country's principles, and that is the sovereign God is the one who helped to establish a nation called Liberia today, according to our preamble. And therefore, we have our allegiance to the Lord. Wherever we are in crisis, we turn to him. And when we discuss these humanitarian crises or issues, they are all pointing to the love for humanity. And we know Christ, because of his love, he sacrificed himself. And therefore, for all those that he has sacrificed for and those who have come to him, yes, they should be treated by other human beings with dignity and respect. And so it behooves us to discuss the statement here from the government of Liberia, the issue of rebuttal, um, walking back on some of the things that the ambassador had observed so far. As you all know, it is all on social media that the U.S. Ambassador Michael McCarthy describes a cunning plan and action by a clique of Liberian government officials undermining the growth and progress of county service centers and health facility or health delivery facilities such as rural hospitals, clinics, and administrations. And so he singles out the overall governance, the governance and the administrative governance of the Ministries of Health and Interior for depriving rural citizens of necessary appropriated funds to operate. However, we know that the Liberian government denies the ambassador's empirical conclusion, noting that all funds weren't misappropriated. And so today we'll look at the stark reality of why these local citizens are complaining about lacking basic public life necessities, as the ambassador observed for himself. And so here he comes to the conclusion, and I'm going to put that on the screen here. The ambassador comes to the conclusion here by saying that as for him, he's going to, a Congress, National Congress of the U.S. National Congress ask him his assessment of Liberia, what he has observed. He's going to say, well, honestly, that he is disappointed. He is disappointed for the fact that those living in the leeward counties, in the rural country, in the counties, they are deprived of all of the basic life necessities that they should be privileged to have as public service or for public consumption. And so that's what we'll be talking about today. And Reverend Dede is here. Reverend Dede, this is once again, this is a new development that is coming up, but it is new in a sense that the uh, ambassador who has been serving our country since January of 2021 can now come up after this trip to give this kind of dark reality of how people are living their lives without all of the public delivery systems not giving or doing the right thing.
Yeah, bless God, brother, and welcome to this podcast where we look at scriptures, and scriptures informs the physical. And it's because of that we have this, like you just ably described what the intent of this broadcast is. And so we always try to endeavor to be balanced with the word of God and how it reflects on humanity, on society. But again, this is the day that the Lord has made. We're going to rejoice and be glad in it. The ambassador statement covers a whole lot. We might not be uh, 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 able to cover everything today, but we could focus on the health center, the health sector that the ambassador statement mentioned in a strong word statement. And so we welcome you to this podcast, and we will encourage you to comment. Your views and suggestions are as important as what we say on this program. So bless you, brother. I hope you have had a good day. God bless you, and welcome, my Reverend Dr. Alexander Red.
It's a privilege to always or a pleasure to always have you here as we discuss these things. And for all our listeners, please join us. Make your comments. Anything that is on your mind regarding the statement you haven't heard. If you, I know you heard about it, maybe snippets of it, or what you have heard and what you think, you can express your comments in our comment section below. And it is important that we understand that this ambassador will soon be concluding his tour of duty in Liberia, and he will be going back to the United States for reassignment. There will be a new ambassador assigned after he's cleared with the U.S. Congress, and so this is the last dish for Ambassador McCarthy, last dish in the sense that he is wrapping up. But the thing here is that all his trip that he took to these counties, um, for example, he named some places that he went to visit: uh, Zwedru, Voinjima, Zwedru, Fishtown, Greenville, Barkleyville City, and Greenville, Buchanan. Okay, some of these places that he named here, and that also includes some other areas. And I'm looking at his statement here. He has saying in Luffa County, for example, he says that it is also reported in the press that with the Telo Memorial Hospital in Luffa County and other facilities, he says they are surviving on the backs of what? Healthcare professionals, which means those who are working as health professional or practitioners, they are trying to add in their own effort to make ends meet in every way by providing the minimum, but it is based on their own strength because he said they are not fully funded. Now, the interesting thing here is that he says, unfortunately, okay, which is the disappointing part, he said, on the trip, I was startled and deeply troubled to encounter multiple county hospitals that received not one penny of what they were promised in the 2022 budget. That is last year's budget. Okay, some of these hospitals did not receive that. And Reverend Dede will be coming on later with the government's rebuttal or explanation of what they think about the ambassador statement. So I'm dealing with the ambassador statement right now. So these hospitals, they did not receive a penny of the 2022 budget, okay? And these are hospitals and areas where outbreaks are common, and they are preventable if they have the resources. So according to him, he says that um, they did not receive any portion of the US $100,000 or more given by the legislature for them to operate. So the US Congress approved that amount, $100,000 for the hospitals, and they should receive a portion of that. So he says at William Memorial Hospital in Lofa County, they did not receive anything at all. And people who are the health professionals are making passion things together there for themselves. And that is dangerous. So he says the blocking of these resources, it brings institutional breakdown and lack of any alarm being raised. So it means that nobody within the government has raised an alarm. And this is where he accuses a group of people who have collaborated or connived to not deliver the funds, because he uses here the word syndicate. He says that this involves players at the national legislature, which means our lawmakers, okay? They have people there, and also those at the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Internal Affairs, okay? These are people who say there are certain individuals who did not raise an alarm because they know what is going on. They know that the funds that should be received there, but he calls them what? Syndicate. That means like a network involving these people that are charged with responsibility to dispense these funds. So he singles out one town, okay, administrator, look with anticipation mixed with fear at the brand new modern hospital. They have a brand new modern hospital that sits vacant, that nothing inside. So the money was given to what? To put the resources that it needs there, but nothing was there. But this is the most interesting part too. He said the United States government is about to spend additional money to build a laboratory, a much bigger laboratory. Okay, the United States about to spend the total of over US $40 million to construct the state-of-the-art National Reference Laboratory that, when it is completed, will require US $3 million to US $4 million a year from the government of Liberia to operate. So then they have a future plan for our country to spend this large or huge sum of money, okay, to build this laboratory, this lab, and it would take $3 million to run it. However, he is apprehensive about how that will go, whether it will go well, based on the evidence that he has seen already regarding the areas that he has visited. So then he says, he reasons here by saying, if the government is failing to deliver statutory appropriations, that is, out of those Leeward counties areas where they have service centers and clinics and hospitals, if they are failing to deliver what is to be given them of the US $100,000, US $100,000 to all those hospitals, why would they ever trust them to give them another money, which is $3 million just to operate in the future for that new lab? Okay. And according to him here, he visited the county service centers. And back last year, okay, he also said that they received nothing, none of the budget for last year, 2022. That is a budget allocation. Usually, he said it is around 13.3 333, okay, which is about $13,000, okay. So then this is why he broke down, but we'll go to the numbers later on and look at the government rebuttal or what they say about the ambassador here. And he also is saying, well, places that he visited, they have centers there, offices there, where the Liberian National Revenue, that is the national revenue, where they collect revenues from the government, they have offices there and they collect revenue. But all the other delivery facilities, like the clinics, the hospital, and service centers, they shut a printer, they shut a lot of things that they don't have, and because they have not received the appropriate funding. And so then he said, this is a problem, and it becomes a problem because if the national legislature, the lawmakers, the appropriate funds for themselves, including the other branches, and they make sure that they get paid on time or get paid, what about the services that they should provide and the people that they are representing in those leeward counties? Why are they doing so? And it is interesting that he concludes here by saying, he said, as for me, should the U.S. Congress ask how the elite, that is the people who got money in Liberia, the elite in Monrovia, are treating destitute citizens, those citizens who are deprived of all their basic life necessities, those citizens who don't have, how those big shot, let me put it that way, treating them in those leeward counties. He says, my honest response will have to be those citizens are treated with a neglect that borders on contempt. Then he asked the question, is this the best that Liberia can do? So he's going to report to the U.S. Congress about what he saw or he has seen. He's going to tell Congress in his report. You know, as an ambassador, when you're assigned to a country, when you're leaving, everything that you observe, your tour of duty and all of that, you have to report to the National Congress. That is the U.S. Congress. And this is what he's going to tell the U.S. Congress, that the current administration has not done pretty well in appropriating the funds that we're giving, even though there might be some other allocations there in the funds here and there, which the government in this rebuttal will talk about how they appropriated those funds. But this is so far what the ambassador assigned to Liberia from the U.S., Michael A. McCarthy, is saying areas that he went to go visit, which of course was Zwedru, Fishtown, Greenville, Barclayville City, and Buchanan, and Lofa. And this is what he has seen, and this is what he has come up with. And so Reverend Deda will come online on here on the screen, and let him take a look at what the government is saying regarding that response to the ambassador, and what is the discrepancy that we might see, if there is any. Reverend Deda.
Praise Jesus, praise Jesus. Thank you, thank you. I was trying to follow you keenly and looking at the government response as well. Thank you. This discussion is clearly based around the ambassador's statement. But what does the Word of God say about the government before we go into discussing the government response? Because if we look at what the Bible says about government, we will begin to appreciate why we are having this discussion in the first place. We all have our own thoughts on the government, about what the Bible says about the government, the government's responsibility to its people, as they lead the people, the government's responsibility to provide social services and make sure the health center and healthcare sector are all in place. These are responsibilities of the government. The government is responsible to make sure that the citizenry are protected under the law, that the rule of law is in place, that people can feel comfortable to live as free citizens in the country under the rule of government, to simplify good governance. So the discussion today is clearly on what the government's responsibility should be, as the Bible states. The Bible tells us all authority. All it said, let every person be subject to the governing authorities. The governing authorities are those who are in governance. For there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. So God institutes government for the work of God, because the government in itself is a sort of ministry, but not many government ministers see that as being in ministry, in a sense where they are answerable to God as they relate to the people. So therefore, the scripture said, therefore, every whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed. What does that mean? Anyone who goes against the government is going against God. But that does not mean the government goes wrong, you cannot call the government to order. And this is where the ambassador statement comes in, and we want to just go to what the government response is as it relates to the ambassador statement. Thanks to my friend for looking at the statement from the ambassador. So let's just take a brief look at the government's response to what the ambassador said. The administration of President Weah has described the ambassador's statement as inaccurate and on the session. The government says the statement is inaccurate, that the U.S. ambassador issued on April 24th. As you said, McCarthy in his write-up on Monday accused the government of not disbursing any portion of the U.S. $100,000 or more appropriated by the legislature for hospitals on which lives depend. But the government, on the other hand, according to the government, its efforts in reviving health care and education have gotten much acclaim from various bilateral and multilateral partners on desperate global economic challenges. So while the ambassador is saying that the government is not doing anything much for the health sector, the government conversely says they are doing everything to revive the health sector, the healthcare, and the education, and that what they are doing has getting the claim from not just multilateral but global, but bilateral organizations as well, in the face of the economic situation. The healthcare, the Weah government said, is one sector in which the government continues to expand its efforts to increase coverage in order to meet the needs of millions of Liberians, as well as hone the skills of service providers. So the government is saying they are not only contributing to the survival of health sectors, but they are also preparing health workers, giving them skills to be able to provide the services needed for the citizenry. And let me quote this directly from the government. It says, why the government recognizes that there is always room for improvement, particularly in the allocation and disbursement of funds for essential services, the narrative as expressed by Ambassador McCarthy is inaccurate, quote unquote. And this is a statement signed by the Minister of not Education, Minister of Information, Honorable Leche Hureni, who issued this statement. The statement continues, and I want to quote it clearly. Data from the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning and validated by the Ministry of Health proved that cash disbursement to health facilities nationwide for the year ended fiscal year 2022. So the government is saying that there are data that can prove that the funds were disbursed in fiscal year 2022 to the health sector. The statement continues that on fiscal year 2022, about 7.2 million was disbursed to more than 70 hospitals, clinics, health centers around the country. This amount, according to the government, represents operational activities and excludes salaries of employees, rent, drugs, and vaccines, which are provided by the government or the assistance of government partners. So government is clearly pushing back on the ambassador's statement that the amount that was approved by the national legislature was not used in the health sector. The government says they have data that can be backed by the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Finance and Development Planning that indeed the funds were disbursed for the health sector. The government continues that the top 10 receivers of the reported account for about $3.8 million out of the $7.2 million disbursed to 70 plus health facilities across Liberia. So the government is giving statistics that out of the $72 million, $3.8 million was disbursed to 70 plus health facilities across Liberia. And the top 10 receivers include referral hospitals such as the Jackson Evdo, the CB Dunbar, the Phoebe Hospital School of Medicine, the Telewian, JFK Memorial Center, and the Redemption Hospital. The statement added. The government is saying that the money was used, unlike what the ambassador is saying. So put in a nutshell, the ambassador said the money was not used. The government says the money wasn't used. That is the backdrop of this discussion today. The question is, who's saying the truth? We're not saying anybody's giving the wrong information, but we are looking at the ambassador's statement and the U.S. government, the Liberian government rebuttal or reaction to what the U.S. ambassador is saying. So, Ellis, the question is, who has the right the data and who is saying the truth, and how do we get to this truth, Ellis?
Yeah, but the thing is, the ambassador was very clear on the areas that he visited. That means on his trip, the areas, the Leeward counties he visited, and the hospitals, he named some of them. But the government's rebuttal does not state whether funds were actually given to those specific or particular hospital or services or service centers that the ambassador enlisted. And so
this is what the government says about that, though. This is what the government says about
government
that.
said they give funds to about 70 hospitals, right?
Yeah.
But what are the 70 hospitals? Did they name any of those particular places that the ambassador visited? No, it is not in there. Okay. It is not in there. And if that data show that they disperse the funds, then who receive it? Because at the end, during that trip, all those officials on the ground, if those are on the ground, the ambassador heard from them, and he also observed for himself. You know, evidence is the whole thing. Eyewitness can prove a lot. He saw it for himself, and that is the empirical evidence that allows him to write what he's writing, to report to the Liberian people. And this is what he's going to report to the U.S. Congress. And so, yes, the government reported that. They have the data on paper. It is there. But when it comes to the actual evidence for the medication and the operational logistics, nothing is there. Nothing is there, and the local citizens are complaining about that. Look at the new hospital, the one in Lofan that he talks about in his writing. He says it is vacant. What are the resources? What are the material that should be in there? They are not there. And why is it, if they had the funds, why is it that those local health professionals or practitioners are filling in for themselves and sacrificing, volunteering? So then, why is it that the national legislature or members of the House or those who representing those areas in the Leeward counties, why aren't they concerned? Why they didn't raise any alarm? And why is it that they have not called for investigation into what is going on? So we cannot just, the citizens cannot just look at the press release reporting what the ambassador is saying as inaccurate, But then let them call for investigation. Let them let the senators or representatives in those areas, or the representatives in those areas, uh, go there and see for themselves. That's why the ambassador came to the conclusion that, yeah, there's a syndicate, okay, players. It's like a syndicate, it's like a clique from the national legislator, the lawmakers, maybe for those representing those legal counties, and the Ministry of Internal Affairs, that is the Ministry of Interior or Internal Affairs, and the Ministry of Health. Maybe they're conniving, according to him. That's why he's suspecting. That is why he's alleging, because they have never raised any alarm regarding those resources that need to be in those clinics or hospitals, in those service centers. Nothing is there. So then there's a problem. So then this is where we see the discrepancy between the government's response and the ambassador's observation. So we're dealing with somebody who actually went on the ground and saw, okay, we give the money. Okay, you show all the data that you spend it, yes. But in actuality or in reality, we still see the plight of the people. So then who is playing game here, Reverend Dede?
Certainly, that's a good question. Who is playing game? I don't know whether a game is being played, but the government response named 70 facilities that we're not there to see these 70 facilities, and they are not mentioned in the government's rebuttal. But the government said the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning and the Health Ministry that is directly involved with these health centers confirmed that the amounts were disbursed and used for these places. It's true the ambassador was on the ground and he saw for himself the realities on the ground. And the government said, no, what you saw is not a real picture. So indeed, one of the questions we just restate, who investigates, who comes in between to say yes, the ambassador is saying the right thing, or the government is saying the right thing, and then give that sort of report, that sort of analysis we give the people, international or global, to see the discrepancies that you mentioned in your follow up to the ambassador's statement. But let's not forget. Whatever the government says can always be investigated. So we assume the ambassador has already investigated what he stated. I mean, he visited the counties, and according to his statement, he has visited all of the counties in Liberia, and that's how he come to this particular statement. But the government is saying also that meanwhile, we are government in its release did not address the issue of the lack of funding for many county service centers. The We Are statement did not really clearly state
that. Yes, he did not address that.
In other case, maybe there's a follow-up statement coming up from the government.
Yeah, let's see. But the thing is,
wait a minute. Let's get it. Let's get it now. So the government said it is important, however, to clarify that there was another $60 million that was mentioned by the ambassador. And the government said it is important, however, to clarify that the $60 million referenced by the ambassador is not money coming entirely to the government of Liberia, as has been understandably being skewed by politicians with an eye on the upcoming election. So now the government is bringing skew politicians into the picture to defend itself. And then the government says only a small fraction of government-to-government support, which is disbursed only after proof of performance, goes to the government. So the government is saying before funds come, there is the government-to-government ratification before disbursement as a proof for performance. So the government is trying to defend itself, and it says that the rest is expended through uses, own funding mechanism. So the government is saying you disburse money, but then you say it's the one who expends these funds through their own funding mechanism. In other words, you say may have overhead for administrative reasons, so they disburse $50 million, and out of the $50 million, about $30 million or maybe $20 million goes to overhead. So yes, the government of Liberia is supposed to receive on paper $50 million, but half of that money or quarter of that money goes to use it overhead. So the government should also lay its own defense as to these monies are
Yes.
mentioned, but all of them not coming to us, at least.
Okay, but you see, when it comes to budgeting, they look at what is needed. Okay, the needed resources for the hospitals and areas that we're talking about, the service centers, and they make a budget for that. And they also budget for the overhead with the usage, paying staff, and other things, and they make budget for that. The ambassador is talking about the portion that was taken from that money for those resources that are needed or that were needed at those places in the Leeward counties. That budget, that amount, they did not receive a penny in those specific or particular areas where he visited. And he pinpointed them in his statement. Now, the government is not addressing that. I was expecting the government to investigate, especially the national legislature, those representatives for those areas that the American ambassador visited. They should launch an investigation. But you see, the catch here is that this American ambassador is suspecting that there is a syndicate, a clique of people working in hand to keep this silent. Why? They have not raised alarm. Why? He had discovered all these things, and up to now, there's nobody saying anything except for the government, the Ministry of Information, to come up with a press release saying it is inaccurate. The money that was given, portion was given to government, but most of it went to the overhead, whatsoever you said, or another nonprofit organization. However, that portion I was giving, the ambassador is concerning why is it that portion was misappropriated? Why is it that those hospitals are short of the needed medication and some other things that citizens should be having based on taxpayers' money? They are all public, they are all for public consumption, all of those resources. And that is his point. So it is disappointing for us to see citizens in those Leeward counties complaining and getting sick and dying without proper treatment that they are entitled to. Because remember, this year is national election, and people will, most of the House members, representatives, and even on the presidential level, they will be asking for votes. And this report, latest report, is very damaging for this government because the ambassador McCarthy was very he pinpointed directly here in his statement. This is what he said. He pointed out this government. He says all the places that he visited, the Zwedru, Fishtown, Greenville, Barclayville City, and Greenville, Buchanan, he says right here that okay, so this is what he mentioned this government motto, which is the pro-poor agenda. He says, Liberia's poorest citizens, lowering food costs, revolutionizing farm to market access, and eliminating seasonal shortages of life-saving medicines and equipment. He said a legislature, that is lawmakers, will still have US 43 million a year to somehow get by. Anyone interested in a pro-poor agenda? So are you saying that the pro-poor agenda is not coming to fruition as expected, based on the hope that we're giving to the poor people? So here he wants to know, the question that he wants to know, how come those leaders at Ministry of Health, Ministry of Internal Affairs, and some in the legislature of our government, how come they're not raising alarm? How come they're not talking about these things? How come that his observation is proving that those resources were not there? Yes, it may look good on paper that they were allocated to those places, but someone is withholding that fund. It is in someone's pocket. That is the point here. Reverend Dede?
Yes, certainly. In fact, the government also mentioned in his statement that the new hospital that Ambassador McCarthy is indirectly referring to is the state-of-the-art Emirates Hospital in Bopolu County, one of the poorest counties in Liberia. constructed with funding with from the UAE, that is the United Arab
Mhm.
Emirates government. It is a 100-bed capacity hospital, comprises of several operating theaters and a modern laboratory and intensive care unit, the ICU, and various specialized departments, and would need more than $1 million to run. Now, it was built to replace the makeshift Chief Jalalong Hospital,
Mhm.
which is currently struggling with funding and drug supply problems, according to its administration. So the government is saying that the facilities that the ambassador did not mention, but talk about the state of the art, is the hospital being built by the UAE. So it's not more like U.S. government money.
No, no, no. He's no, 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 no. That hospital you're talking about is not the state of the art. He said, yeah, the hospital, but it's lay vacant. And there were
Yes,
funds
it's
allocated. There were funds allocated for them to put resources in there,
yeah,
but nothing is there.
yeah,
But
it's
state
a
of the art,
U.S.
hold on, the state of the art laboratory he's talking about. He said is in the future, the U.S. government is about to send that fund to build a laboratory. He said the United States government is about to spend a total of over $40 million constructing Liberia's state-of-the-art national reference laboratory that when it's completed to run it, it will require $3 million. He said, but if the government is failing right now to appropriate the funds that those areas that he visited, um, where there was not a penny given to those people, how can they manage a whole new laboratory that the U.S. government is intending to build? And so he's going to report all, according to him, the end of his statement. He says that's what you're going to tell the U.S. Congress.
We are talking about two things here, Alice. You're talking
Okay.
about that one. I'm referring to the state of the art hospital being built by United Emirates in Popolu, not statutory district again. Is Popolu
Yes, he
County.
said it lay vacant
Yeah,
there. It
yeah,
lay vacant.
and that one, the government also mentioned that in its report. That's why I want to go back to it to see what the government is saying about that. The
What it
government
say
says, yeah, the new hospital that the ambassador,
in Bobolu?
yeah, the ones in Popolu,
Okay, what it say about it?
yeah, the new hospital that the McCarthy is indirectly referring to is the state of. He also mentioned institution, a hospital that is laying there, and that hospital is this one been built by the United Emirates.
UAE.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the UAE. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So this one is a 100-bedroom capacity hospital that will comprise operating theaters and modern facilities, intensive care unit, and various specialized departments, and would need more than $1 million to run. Okay, so in other words, that hospital is not being abandoned, as is being implied by the government. The Liberian government is paying close attention to that hospital. That's something to bring up because the government mentioned that as well. But the point you made about investigation, that's on a serious one, for us to have a balance between what the ambassador is saying and what the Liberian government is saying. I believe the Liberian government has data. They made reference to a data, so we will say, okay, let those data be released for people to see, to back their own reaction or rebuttal to the U.S. government's statement. But the short of the law is this is a serious issue we're talking about, that monies allocated are not being used for the intended purpose, and the government is saying no, that's not true. The U.S. ambassador says yes, that's true. I went, I saw, and I came back and I'm reporting on what I said. So you and I are in a place where we're looking at the two statements for the ambassador and the U.S., the Liberian government, and for the people to decide to listen to the two statements and see where is the truth. Okay, is the truth on the side of the U.S. government? Most people will say yes. Or is the truth on the side of the Liberian government? Some people might say yes, especially those who might be working in the government and who have a say in government. The
Yeah.
question of this legislature investigating, the legislature also came into the picture. the ambassador mentioned them lining their pockets, increasing their own money. Why these health centers are allowing waste, according to the ambassador. So half of the money they're getting, if it could go to the health center and the farm to market roles, things will improve. So we're giving the benefit of the doubt to the government, which is fair enough, to produce more empirical evidence that indeed the money is not in limbo. It was disbursed and it was used for the intended purpose. And A, B, C, D are the things we did to
Okay, and the
disburse the
ambassador
money.
is saying it was not used for the intended purpose
Mhm.
because he sees for himself. Look here, he says this question regarding taxes, right? People who work, okay, they pay 25% from that paycheck. Okay, those who work for the American embassy and other areas for the American embassy. So
Yeah.
he said the U.S. government, they withhold 25% of salaries of Liberian employees, okay, working at a residence and the embassy, and they pay those taxes that they withhold from the paycheck of Liberians who work for the U.S. embassy, and they pay to the Liberia Revenue Agency, right?
Mhm.
Then he is saying, but why is it that the ministers, okay, and the national legislature, the lawmakers, why? What happened to that 25% from that paycheck? Why they are not paying it? Or if why they are not paying it? And besides that 25%, according to him here, he says, why are they getting the annual duty free? The importing things through the National Port Authority, but it is all duty free because they are officials. Why? Don't you think that if they pay correctly, that every other citizen pay their 25% tax and that duty free is waived so that income can come in more? Don't you think the roles and other things that money can be used to develop the country? So he is still talking about here how funds should be appropriated. Now, some may say, well, he's an American. He's not Liberian. Why is he poking his nose in, Liberian affairs and all of that? But we have been partners with the United States, according to even the government rebuttal. They say right there for a long time,
Mhm.
and they help Liberia all along. Liberia has been begging them to do a lot of other things, and they have spent millions and millions of dollars to help our country. But this ambassador here, who took office in Morovia since January of 2021, I see him as an ambassador. Yes, he may use diplomatic language here and there, but he is very blunt, though. I mean, from what I see so far, all his statement, he's very blunt. He is saying that it is. And I'm also wondering, and you can help me here figure this out. After President Weah visited CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, after that, a few days later on, we heard the announcement that Ambassador McCarthy will be replaced by a new ambassador. That, of course, I was thinking, but then what is going on here? 2021, 22, 23. I mean, his mission here is very short. Why? What is going on in between
But there
the
should be no
president?
why, at least there should be no why. I mean, that the government of the United States always change their ambassadors. I don't think there's an issue here.
Don't you think? Don't you think that he was requested to be taken out because he's very harsh in his language,
You
or
and I know,
because
Ellis. You and I know that the U.S. government does not allow anybody to dictate to her. You and I know that clearly. So nobody will say take your ambassador from here. We don't want him or her here anymore because they are digging too much into our flesh. I don't think the U.S. government that we know will do that. But again, we have ambassadors who Greenfield was there. She left. Bishop was there. He left. We can name ambassadors who were there and they left. You have missions set. If your time comes and they want to maybe sucker you and send you somewhere else, they can send you. That I don't
okay.
really see an
Okay,
issue
I mean,
in
I'm just saying, I'm just putting it
yeah,
out there. That is
yeah.
just what I
But
think.
before we
But
forget,
I mean, I think it is short lived, though.
well, who decides whether it's short lived or not? The government, the U.S. government has its own time frame in the head. We don't know
Yeah,
what
but I
the
mean,
mission.
I like the ambassador because he shoots straight to the hip. He doesn't beat around the bush, use diplomatic language here and there. He said, "Hey, this is what I see, and this is how it is." And the way he concluded his letter, he's not really happy with the function
True.
of government agencies and also ministries as a whole.
And the
From what we
legislature
see
too.
here.
and legislator too. I mean, he's also concerned about them.
Yeah.
But you see, well, we asked our viewers to comment, and there are a few comments here. We don't want to lose out of them. We're going to bring some of them
Oh,
up.
yeah, put them on.
Yeah, this person says, I hope the U.S. ambassador is disturbed by the gold he is stealing from Liberia.
But
Well,
there's no evidence for that. I mean,
that's a
show the
comment.
evidence.
Yeah,
Show the
that's a comment.
evidence that
That's
he's
a
stealing
comment.
gold. We need responsible
People,
statement here.
yeah.
You got some more?
Yeah, I
Here.
have another one that says I commented already, so I don't know what they're commenting on. This other person says
From Louisiana.
Yeah, go healing from Louisiana, and so far there are some I see that say Facebook. You saw some just say hi to us. Oh, I see some up here. Let me put it in the screen. This one says America as a whole is Liberia's problem. If America was not going to support wars in Liberia, I'm reading what the person says. I'm not trying to edit it right now.
Then we'll be better off. I read that, but
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't make sense logically.
Yeah.
Okay, you cannot go to war if someone comes to you and say, "Hey, I want to pay you so you can go kill somebody." If you agree with the person, then you are complicit, right? So you cannot blame outside force. You cannot blame people for your problem. You got to be responsible for yourself. You got to be responsible. And all the ambassador is preaching here or talking about here is responsibility, how funds should be allocated to where they should be so we can have a functioning society for everybody. Okay, everybody. The taxes that are paid from people's paycheck and the maritime funds and money that come in to the revenue agency, it should be dispensed accordingly. And those are handling, okay, those funds, they should buy the material or resources that those service centers and hospitals and clinics and every other thing, even in the educational sector, should receive. And that is a point here. So by you pointing your finger at somebody else for your own issue that is going on, it doesn't make sense. I think that is irresponsible to say.
No, again, we asked them to comment, and that's the person's view. So we accept their thoughts and the view. I won't say irresponsible. That's what they see from their point of view.
Because
But
there's
then
no evidence. How would you say the ambassador is stealing a dime or gold?
That you I know is there's no evidence. We already know what it is. It's just somebody saying something out of their head. But let's go back to the government statement. We would notice the government, the we are government in its release did not address the issue of the lack of funding for many county service centers in the statement. I don't see that. Maybe I missed that because the ambassador also mentioned that the service centers are struggling. They are surviving on their own.
Yes.
I'm looking through the statement. I don't see anything in that regards. These centers were established to address the challenge rural Liberians face in addressing or accessing documents such as birth certificates, business registration, and land deeds, among others. That's what these centers are for. If the centers are not being founded or funded, how are they supposed to operate? And the government will need to respond to that in that sector. The government also says they're doing everything to deal with the educational sector. And I would say here it is important, however, to clarify that I want to come back to that because it is a strong reference the government is making in its defense.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same thing, that you said earlier regarding the rebuttal. The rebut, they say, yeah, we got data to prove that the money, but then who is handling the money and where are the resources that should be in those clinics and hospitals and those service centers? Why are they not there from the 2022 budget? Why? And that is a question. We're talking about what you see is what you believe, as we always say, right?
So seeing is believing, as it said.
Exactly. And it goes down much more deeper. We are concerned about those citizens like you living in those counties that are deprived of the necessary medication, prescription medication for that treatment. And what about if a disease outbreak goes on, let's say in Lo-Fi or other places, and the new hospital there lie vacant. How do you expect the people to survive? And these are questions that the ambassador is asking. I don't think he is intentionally saying these things just to model this government or because he hate the president or the government as a whole. No, no. He is writing exactly what he sees. And
And in the
go ahead.
statement, at least the statement also talk about. I think I don't know if I mentioned this. It says similar efforts are being made in the educational sector as the WIA administration strengthens the free and compulsory primary education initiative, as well as the improvement of schools infrastructure and the training and support of teachers. The government is also building new modern schools and developing
And
standards.
that's true. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah,
They're building roads and they do some other things. And don't get me wrong, but we have mainly the focus is on what the ambassador saw during his visit. That's the
yeah,
main thing. Don't get
yeah.
me wrong. Hey, the government is building roads and doing some other things, and we appreciate that. No, but the focus here is the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Internal Affairs, and some players in the national legislature. These representatives that are representing those legal
And
counties
the executive too.
and the
Internal
executive,
affairs.
why they are
Yeah.
not raising
Mhm,
alarm about these
mhm.
funds, about all the missing resources that the hospitals and those service centers need. Why? Why are they
But
not
you
talking
think
about
they're
that?
going to raise alarm, Alice? You think they're going to raise alarm?
That's why I say because dishonesty, and that's where integrity comes in. But anyway, that's how it is, and we are hoping that the citizenry will see for themselves how uh, they
We'll
voted
see it.
for
Yeah,
those,
yeah,
that
yeah,
are representing them.
yeah.
But this is all about awareness, and we pretty much gave our own take on both statements, the one from the U.S. ambassador and the one from the government rebutting, and we'll see the discrepancies. And we all hope that you will also see what we don't see, and so that we can find a better way. And the better way is that is my expectation that when something goes wrong, there's a need to fix it.
Yeah.
So what went wrong should be fixed. And the way to do that, and from all modern democracy or all democracy that we see, even in the United States, they will investigate. They will investigate where the funds went and what this ambassador is talking about. They will go on the scene and see for themselves or investigate and then report. And if anything goes wrong, yes, they will prepare some sort of a planning, ways and means to avert that for the future. That's how it
Yeah.
is. That's how a functioning society is. And so they should not just rebut with that statement. They should do something about it if it is true in our conscience. If they know that what the ambassador is saying is true, they should now get up and say, hey, let us know what's going on. And if they don't want to admit that, yes, the ambassador, I mean, it is harmful to even see a government admitting that that it did wrong in the first place.
It has to be a willingness, Alice. That should be a williness because
Yeah,
the
willingness
government
to
sees
admit.
itself owing a responsibility to its citizenry, and with that mindset, and a good government will want to go the extra mile and make sure what this person is saying about us is not right. This is the evidence we have, so that we can give you clarity for you to make a decision. And this is what we're trying to do today. Let us be clear. Alex is not on the side of anyone. I'm not on the side of anyone. We're trying to present the two statements that we've seen from the U.S. ambassador to Liberia, and the Liberian government's response or rebuttal or reaction to what the U.S. ambassador's statement says. That is all we're trying to do. And thanks to those who are commenting here. We appreciate all of your comments. We ask you to do that. We welcome that, and keep commenting. Once in a while, we may comment on your comment if your comment needs to be clarified, but it does not mean we don't want you to comment. So thanks to all of you who are commenters. Alex, thank you for the discussion. I think it was vibrant. It was open. We just agreed to agree. Even now that we're taking position, but that's the reality we have in this picture. But before we leave, I know I'll pass it back
Yeah.
to you to do the closing. Our government owes it to our people yes, to issue the statement, but also find out what is happening. Maybe the ambassador statement should open their eye to see, okay, we did not see this. We have data that the funds were disbursed, but now we know from the ambassador statement, these funds were not given to the places who are gone, and a good government will want to do that. And so, if that's the case, I think the government will do good if they look at the data they have compared with what is on the ground to come to a logical or objective conclusion that we thought this was obtaining, but this is actually the what is obtained on the ground. When that happens, people will have more respect for the government and give it accolades that they need for that particular one. Elections is around the corner, and everybody will do everything to defend himself or herself. But what counts is the trust for the people, Alex.
Trust of the people. And it goes back to the truth and being honest and serving the public with integrity. And this is how we leave you here today on our podcast. This is the Gracious Hope Live podcast. My name is Alexander Red, and Reverend Swat Dede. We'll be back in next Saturday. We are always here on Saturday, and we'll talk about contemporary issues that affect the Christian life of faith. And our country is predominantly Christian, and we respect our Christian heritage, and so we promote and preserve our Christian heritage. Until then, please share our link with your friends, your families, and your loved ones so that they can be a part of this program. Until then, we'll see you again. And we'd like to say from our end, bye for now. Okay.